Welcome to the Talking Pages, and we have our returning guest host today, Esperance Mulonda. Did I get that correctly? Because I butcher
Yes.
people's names these days. Thank God. Thank God. Okay, let me see how much I know about Esperance. She's currently schooling and working in the States. I forget the state and the city, but
It's
she's
it's not
from.
important.
Oh, it's not important. I mean, maybe
It's
what if you
not.
have.
They don't need
What
to
if you
know
have
that.
what
It's
what
just
if you have some friends, that want to be like super
ah,
close, super duper,
ah.
fantastic, wonderful friends with the great
I'm just
Esperance?
a lady. I'm
My
just a lady
God,
online who
my
likes
God,
books. That's all I
she's
am.
already mine. Okay, okay, if you say so. um, okay, yeah, and she's Congolese, and the book we're discussing today is a book from her home country or country of origin because she's a global citizen. I can assure you guys of that. Today she has the floor because I know nothing about this book. I'm going to confess that I'm just using her for her brain inside this episode. So
Well,
I'm sorry, I have to admit that. Title of the book is Dealing with the Dead, authored by Alain Mabanckou. Originally in French, it was
les commerces des
Allongés.
allongés.
It got this Allongés. Hey! It
Mm.
was translated into English, and the title was Dealing with the Dead. Alain was at Ake Festival last year, and I
Mm-hmm.
made a mental note that I personally I was going to interview him, but I was like, let me get my French up so that I'll speak French and then I'll soften him up. And at our book club, while they were looking for a short book, I was like, let's read Dealing with the Dead, and everybody was like, oh, they'll read it, and then they read it, and now some people think I'm one of the greatest book connoisseurs of all time. But we'll hear from Esperance. How did you find Dealing with the Dead? Like, where did it come from? How did you meet it?
I actually learned about him last year because I gave myself a challenge of like I'm gonna try to read it because I looked at my books. I was like, I've read so many books, but like there's only a handful of Africans, a handful of Black people. I need to like increase those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and so I decided to just look for African authors from like I wanted to try at least one from each country, and
Oh.
then Alain was the I think the third one I read. I read African Psycho. I was like, this shit is speak. I I love it. I kept thinking about it for months, and so like when the book club was like reading him again, I'm like, duh, of course, like I'm gonna be there. He's a very interesting guy. Like I feel like he's like the type of guy like you read and then you want to write about. But because
Hmm.
like the other book didn't feel very emotional, it felt very intellectual. Like I was reading it, and I'm just like trying to connect things and like very like deep in the story, but not involved emotionally. This one was a bit
Hmm.
different. It was like I actually cared about the character. It wasn't just all intellectual for me. So that was like a bit different. But I quite enjoyed this one. I think better than the African Psycho. But yeah, that's all I'd say about this for now.
Okay, African Psycho. What is African Psycho?
It's a novel about a man who has an idol that he admires, like kind of a bad person that he wants to emulate, but he's so incompetent that despite all he tries, he really can't. Like you're reading the book, you're like, how can you be like, how can you fail at crime? You know, like he's trying, like it's bad to be like a bad person, like his idol on the TV, who's like this like rapist, murderer, blah blah blah, but he can't. Like he even like he tried to assault a woman, like he can't do it because like his thing won't go up, and I was just like, this shit is so insane. I was just reading, I was just like, what? It was meant to be like a duality between again the two Congos, then the Africa and the
Hmm.
West. Like, it's like very intellectual when you actually sit down. But like reading it, you're so frustrated at the main character because he keeps failing at the most basic things. But yeah, I was very infuriated reading the book. When I finished it, I was still mad. But then I thought about it after a few weeks. I'm like, actually, maybe we should have said this and that. Da, 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 da. So
Okay, but is this your first time? Like, okay, okay. So these are your first books of the author. Have you met him outside any of these books? Have you seen him maybe somewhere in popular culture, or maybe like on the news, like the Pride of Congo?
actually, no. I just wanted to make a clarification. We're
Hmm.
not actually from the same country. He's from Congo Brazzaville. I'm from Congo Kinshasa. So those people are irrelevant to us. They don't matter.
I hear
But
that.
no, I haven't, I hadn't heard of him until last year. Then again, like I said, I live
Hmm.
in the US. In order to like no African writers, you actually have to look for them. Unless they're
Oh,
like Nigerian and super popular, you're not gonna know anything. Like you actually have to look, just like being very intentional about finding African, especially francophone ones, because like it's
yeah,
difficult to get translated, and then there's
yeah,
a whole like again they're from a country that speak French. Like it's
yeah.
difficult to find them.
Okay, I think the first time I heard of Alain was actually in um early, I think was it late 2024. So
Mm,
one of my favorite authors and also like a friend, Umar Sidi Abubakar, he went to the Sharjah festival and he
hmm.
met Alain and they had a conversation and he came back and he was like,
Wow.
"Oh my God, you need to talk to Alain." So when I saw Alain, I was a little shy because I was like, "Oh my
Mm.
God, he's so awesome." And so I had to go through my like author friend. I was like, when I talk to Alain, I would ask you to introduce me. And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, sure, sure." So he's actually the one that got me dealing with that Alain's book because he was like, "Pick the here is a bookstore, pick any book." And I was like, "I'll pick Alain Mambuku's book." And he was like, "It's a good one." And that's how I got the book and down and everything. So
That's
yeah,
so nice. Oh my god,
yeah,
I want to meet him someday. They're very,
yeah.
very interesting. I feel like I would really love talking to him.
So we read Dealing with the Dead.
Hmm.
How long did it take you to finish the book? It's like 241 pages, I think, physical copy. How long did it take you to finish it? And what was your reading experience like?
So I read half of it in one day, and then the rest it took me about 5 days to finish because I had like a bunch of exams and
Mm,
work and stuff like that. But if it was up to me, I think I would have just read it all in one day. I loved reading it. It felt light. I was very interested in like every story that came up. I was
mm,
intrigued. I I could already see the big picture, but I was very just like intrigued, but also scared because I'm just like these are the stories that I was told when I was a child. Like this is I'm scared, but it's like it felt too personal that it was scary. It's like when I watch
mm.
Nigerian movies with like evil spirits and stuff like that. It's more scary to me than watching vampires, like in American movies. I don't care. Like these are these special effects, blah blah blah. But like if it's a Nigerian movie, I see Mami Wata, I see like all these things, I'm like I can't sleep. So it just kind of felt similar where it's like it's too personal that like it feels very scary.
Yeah, I did feel that because, it was presented in a language and in a form that I
Hmm.
knew all too well. I was just thinking, like, oh my God, this is why, like, I continue to read African literature because it feels so much close to home.
Hmm.
So, what was amazing about this book? Like, what did you like? What did you read inside this book that you were like, you know what, I'm coming to the book chats and everybody's going to hear about this because I have a long list. I have a laundry list of all of these things, but I would like to hear yours first.
Um, just the writing itself. I love
Ah,
the fact that it is accessible, but if you actually sit down and think about it, it's very deep. It tackles very difficult themes with like very simple language, making it like accessible to like everybody if they're willing to try. It's something that it's very difficult to pull off, kind of like the movie Sinners, where it's like if you just want a surface level reading, just like fun, whatever, you're gonna get that. But if you decide to like actually analyze and stuff, you're also gonna find things. It doesn't hurt your brain. It doesn't feel like it's asking for too much. But if you want, if you trust the author, you can get a lot out of it. And I
mm.
really enjoyed that about some like writing.
When you said that it doesn't break your brain, I wanted to drag our book club members. Yeah, because
It didn't break my brain. I can't speak for anybody. I can't speak for anybody because I try I believe myself to be very average. Not very. I'll
Mm,
say average, maybe above
mm,
average in terms of intelligence and analysis. So I expect the same of people because I want to live in a world where we have high expectations of people. So
mm.
yes. I'm
Oh
not
my,
Einstein, I'm a regular ass person. So I expect
oh
expect
my
the
God,
same.
we love a humble queen. Mm?
Also
And
the characters. The characters are great. Like the humor, I like you found it very funny. I wanted to laugh too, but I was scared. But I can see that. I can see what he was trying to do.
when I was reading it, I knew that there were lots of things that were flying
Hmm.
over my head. While I was reading that book, I wasn't seeing Lagos. I was just seeing Cotonou. When there's
Mm.
like Pointe-Noire, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh
One
yeah,
no, yeah.
yeah. It reminded me of like all of those names in Cotonou. So first, Like that was like my only link there. When he started describing the colors that they were
Mm,
wearing, they were
mhm,
very reminiscent of everything that I had been told or I had been experienced from, Cameroon, Central African
mm,
Republic,
mhm,
down to the
mhm,
Congos, down to the
mm,
RC, and all of that. So that was what I was. So that was the space I was in. Like he really captured that place well. Of course, writing was masterful. That's what I would say.
mhm,
That
mhm,
ability to fold deeper themes into what is just
mhm,
seemingly regular stories and stuff. And while I was reading it, I think it was when I was editing like the interview with Tendai Huchu, where Tendai was
mhm,
talking about like as a writer, what you are not great in becomes like your strength. And he actually made mention of Alain. He was like, if you read Alain Mambaku's writing, he doesn't describe the place. He's not going to tell you that, oh, the hills were verdant with lush green grass, with a mountain that was the size of a man's hand. No.
mm.
He's going to just get into the story, and he does a lot of his story building in dialogue. He's a master at dialogue. And when I came to the book, I saw that, and it was like, watch out, Alain's books are very short, but they are very impactful. And I
Okay.
was like, this is the second francophone novel that I'm reading that is that short. So my question to you
Mm.
was, are all like Afro francophone novels that short?
No,
Ah,
absolutely, absolutely not.
what's the
Um, Generally they are shorter. I've like generally speaking, they are
Mhm.
shorter, but they can also sometimes be huge. I feel like African francophone, either they're very like concise or they
Mhm.
would go off. Like there's really no in between. You have the ability to be very precise in French, but you can also be very verbose and just kind of go off and nobody's gonna stop you. So I think, especially if you're going to the literary world, they try to be as concise and precise as possible, just kind of get their point across. They're getting
Oh,
bored. Yeah.
I always
Oh,
ask
oh, I'm
like
sorry. I'm sorry. Before we move, I wanted to ask you something.
yeah.
What did you think of the second person narration? How did that feel
Hmm.
for you?
I think that was like the right voice
Hmm.
for the story, because from the beginning of the story, everything is upside down. He
Mm-hmm.
literally comes into the story from a cyclone, and he drops,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes like a moment to learn
Mm-hmm.
how to walk. The sky was on the feet was on the sky. Taking that and deciding to, you know, turn the story from an I thing into a you thing was a master stroke in getting us into just how disorienting it
Mm-hmm.
is to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are dead, you're on the reverse side of life. So everything
Mm-hmm.
has to be reversed. And him carrying
Mm-hmm.
that into the character of the writing was just, it's a stroke of genius that
I
comes when
feel
you're just
them.
an experienced storyteller.
I like personally, I don't know. I just it felt very natural. The second person, I was like, I didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't feel anything weird. I was just like, it makes sense.
Completely, yeah.
Mind you, I've not read a lot of second person books. I've only read maybe one more second. Like I've only read another one second person book. It was this Japanese book. I think it's called. Ah, it's a Japanese thriller novel, and we are the different murderers are telling us why they killed people.
Oh,
So
I
they're like,
I knew that. I remember that. I
yeah,
remember that
that
story.
was the only other book I've read in second person. But again, so this I thought it was gonna be disorienting, but just kind of went quick like that. I was like, oh, this man can write because
I liked the structure of the book because there's something about like, okay, first there's like how a book is structured, and then there's like the internal book. I don't know
hmm
how to explain it. It's something I read somewhere and everywhere. But for the first structure of the book is that he's sort of like experiencing his own burial, and so that's kind of like how we progress from the beginning to the end. So everything is tied with the events of his burial, but while he's progressing towards his burial, he's also sort of like going back in time to find out how he dies. So
hmm
I found that to be really structurally like, dealing with the dead is the kind of literature that I started reading literature for. Like just
hmm
seeing what, in how many ways you can turn and draw out a simple story. Because
hmm
for all,
hmm
because I could tell this story, I could sit down and say, oh yes, so that this is a story about this guy that died, and then he went and he heard this, he heard this. But with that
hmm
structure now like this, he's first able to keep your interest, he's able to keep it
hmm
interesting. What is otherwise just a regular basic ghost story He's not able to tell you about two, three different things at the same time, because while he's telling you about how our main character is being mourned,
Mhm.
how his mother is mourning him, what is happening, he's also telling you what is happening in Pointe-Noire. And then he's now telling you the story of everything that happened before the main character dies. So you're getting like three, four different things happening at the same time. Because when
Mhm.
I finished it, I was like, it felt as if I knew the local law of Point
Mhm.
Noir. That's
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
just deep he was able
Yeah.
to fold that in. So it was, if I were to describe how he did this, right, as if he wrote like a large story, and then he now, like, you know how you have like a trifold brochure.
Mhm.
So he just wrote it, and then he just folded all the stories into one. And that could only really be achieved in that second person perspective. Because
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
if I were to take a third person perspective, I will be, as a writer, I will be tempted to be omniscient. And then that
Mhm.
just means I have to deal with a lot of thoughts. I
Mhm.
The reader, it feels as if they are owed more explanations on things they don't know. If I do an I, then I have to
Mhm.
work on interiority. You
Yeah.
get. But if I do a you, I don't have to explain shit to you. I just have to tell you that, okay, this is what you are feeling, and you just kind of have to accept it. Because if somebody's
Yeah.
telling you you are
What are
feeling
you,
this,
what are you gonna do?
you are like, ooh. And I think like a lot of readers find it uncomfortable, but I think that for the purpose, because it's because what it asks you to do, what the story is asking you to, that narration is that, okay, I don't have time for this. Sit and listen, and then when we are done, you can think about it. So yeah, that's
Mm.
what the second thing did for me. Oh wow, I've tried to thought about this thing. Okay,
See,
okay, okay,
it
okay,
was
okay.
it was all there in your mind. You just had to let it come out.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So thank you so much for that question. Oh my God. Wow. Okay, now I'm getting
No,
into
like
it.
that was like the question. The moment I saw the you, I'm just like, it's gonna be an issue. I know it's gonna be an issue because I'm still salty about last month. I don't care. I'm still
Oh,
salty about last month. I'll never move
very.
on.
This is where you come in, because
Mm.
place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of links with
Mm-hmm.
Pointe Noire and
Mm-hmm.
you know the entire like city. And like I said, my only frame of reference was Cotonou. But like in
Mm-hmm.
places like Pointe Noire, and like if let's say you are walking on the streets in a place like Pointe Noire as a young person, what are you thinking?
Pointe-Noire and Kinshasa again, well, Brazzaville and Kinshasa, they are known as like the twin city, like the twin sister cities separated by a river and stuff like that. And it's said that what's happening in Kinshasa or the big Congo is usually reflected in the smaller one, right? And I
Mm,
could see that here because the first time I saw Lumumba, I'm like, what is Lumumba doing here? There's a Lumumba roundabout, right? I'm just
oh.
like, what is he doing here? This is not his Congo, right? And so I started paying more attention to like the place and how they behaved, and I found so many similarities, right?
Mm,
You have the way the women were kind of doing the money system of like all giving some portion per month, and then when someone needs it, they take from the fund and help the person. My mom does it, right?
mm,
She's a businesswoman. She has like a group of women that like they do that. That was not unfamiliar to me. I'm like, oh, cool, right? The person giving you compliments of the market for you to sell them, like
mm,
stuff, very common. But something that struck me, then again, I was only home until I was 16. There's probably some realities that I didn't get to learn about. The idea of like silence as a colonial aspect where it's like there's this loud funeral coming in, but we can't go into the neighborhood because they're rich. It has to be quiet, so we cannot go there. I was like, hmm, why is that? I started thinking about those things, and then the cemetery of like this is the rich people cemetery and then the poor cemetery. When I asked my friend, the other Congolese, I'm just like, do we have something like that? He's like, not really, but like you're priced out of some
mm,
cemeteries because it's expensive. It doesn't necessarily say that it's for rich people, but it's just so expensive to be buried there that like poor people don't get buried there, if you know what I'm saying. I feel like I learned so much about Point Noir just from the book, but I could also see similarities to my home and how money affects really everything. That's when I started seeing the thread of like, oh, he's trying to say something about colonization and capitalism and stuff like that. But we'll get into that later. But the place itself felt very
mm.
lively. It felt lived in, created this world that like again with the you POV, where it's like you are thrust into it, so you get to like observe things. You're also a fish out of water, right? Because like you're experiencing things from the first time, kind of seeing the world and how everything is. But yeah, I love the place. It was similar but yet different. Again, through the story, we also learn more about the universe through the different character we meet. It felt very vivid. I could like imagine the place in my mind very easily.
Now we head into
Mhm.
the characters. Of course, I would like to start with
Ah,
our main character, whose name I have
mm,
forgotten.
Liwa.
Oh, Liwa, thank you. And yeah, you told me
Liwa
that Liwa means
meaning
death.
that.
All I can remember about Liwa is, he's very colorful, his jacket, his orange, and his socks, and his cravat. He died very young, but
Mm-hmm.
he died on his way. I mean, he died on the night of that independence party.
Independence, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not clear to me what really happened. So, how would you break it down for me? Like,
How he died.
yeah, how he died? Because
From what I
I
understood,
found.
I mean, need to read the ending because it's a bit confusing. But from what I understood, it was sold, perfumed, used for the dead. He went to a party, and there was a girl who was complaining about the smell. But eventually, when he went to ask her to dance, she agreed, and they danced together. Again, spoiler: she was a ghost because she was the only person kind of able to endure the smell of that perfume, and she had some. I don't want to spoil too much, but it was because of that the perfume.
Okay, okay, that changes things. What do you think of Liwa, the main character?
No, I liked the main character.
Mm-hmm.
He's not my favorite character, but I liked him. You understood everything that was going on with him because it's such a communal thing. We see how loved he was. It feels more painful when he dies. Because when I
Mm.
finally got to the end, I discovered why he died. I'm like, damn, he died for nothing. Like it felt so like devastating because I was so connected to like his grandmother, everything
Mm.
she's been through. Because of her, I felt so sad. It wasn't especially because of the main character
Mm.
because I liked him, but because of the grandmother and what she's been through and what we see her go through with the funeral and everything. Like that she's now alone, right? Despite the communal culture, despite everything, she is alone now and it's just gone for like nothing. And that was like really
Mm.
heartbreaking. But the main character is meant to represent again the youth. Like it's again the youth being sacrificed is such a huge thing in the book. And I think the author just kind of nailed that on the at the end with like the main character also like dying.
Oh, I don't have any notes. I mean, you nailed it on the head. What do I want to say? I found him to be quite naive.
He's 22. He's a baby.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like he's not. He wasn't like. I won't say he wasn't like street smart. Like there were some things that were
No,
happening,
not
and
really.
so when he was talking about his uncle that comes to visit his grandmother, I was like, "Nigga, your grandmother was just getting some from. That was just her guy. You
But
understand?"
let it cook. I know.
So I found him to be very naive, a little innocent. Even at his
Mm-hmm.
work there, like that. Even the perfume and the clothes that he was sold, you just find that Liwa was just like willing to, take everything. And when you said he described youth, I was like, oh yeah, I could see that in action. That naivety just gave us like some sort of like fertile ground for everybody to tell their
Mm-hmm.
stories. The POV that he used is kind of like a spell. What it did to my
Mm-hmm.
brain was like I found it easier to become Lewa because he had already told me that okay, this is who I am inside this story. So when I was hearing those stories, it was easier for me to believe them because there was nobody
Mm-hmm.
questioning the truth of the stories. Who was your favorite character in this story, in this novel?
Malembe.
Of
Duh.
course. And why?
Because again, despite the fact that we never really hear her speak, we know so much about her. Like she's like
Hmm.
the most complex character we actually get here.
Yeah.
We see her from youth until that like the book kind of begins and ends with her. She tells us a lot about the culture. We learn a lot about the culture through her and like what she goes through. You learn about corruption like through her first,
Hmm.
like when the police officer gives her a favor, da 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 da. She gets pregnant, she's abandoned, she decides to go on her own, again, loses her daughter, and now she's raising this kid, and like she goes to the extreme for him. Like we see that. I'm not gonna spoil what she does, but like she does a lot for him, and despite all that, he's gone over some dumb shit. It just felt so very much heartbreaking. But then again, despite again, she's able to have like a found family
Mm-hmm.
with the women at the market and stuff like that. Like she's loved there. As we see, they go all out for her for the funeral. She doesn't have money to pay for the singer, dancer, crier women, but they come together and they do this thing, this favor for her, even though she doesn't have the means to do it. Right? Like where it's like, or told her like money would buy everything, money is the answer to everything, but community is in the sense where it's like she's able to give her grandson a good funeral because of the people in her life. She doesn't have to go through all that alone. So I really appreciated that. That was very nice.
Yeah, this book is intensely more complex than it seems. You know, I
It's
almost
like
forgot
if we
about the
just
part
want to
of.
talk about the role of women, we can, but like we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Oh,
We will. We will.
I'm really just going to wrap up this character part. So for me, a favorite character, I don't know if I read the book
Mm.
deeply enough to have a favorite character, but I did enjoy Luli. I forget his name. That's the musician. I thought I found it. I think it was from his part
Oh,
that
the
I found
musician.
out.
I knew you were gonna say. You know what? I knew you were gonna say that. I was gonna say, let me guess, it's the artist. Oh my god, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the person that came to mind.
Because for me, technically, I think that was where like Alain's voice was the strongest. Of course, he's an artist. Of course, he's singing, and so when he just
Mhm.
comes, he just sort of like sets the tone for. And I really really like that character because I just liked his voice. His voice is the one thing in that story. In fact, I think after he said everything, that's when I now
Mm,
really really got into the book, and like I think I just pulled back and I looked at my copy and I was like, I'm so happy
mm,
this was the book I picked. Yeah, so that was
mhm,
really historical traditional folklore where they were like he sold his soul to the devil for power. Because there's this thing that we spoke of, I think, during an interview where I think the author was telling me about how right now he believes that African literature is now centered around itself, in the sense that
mm,
before, in the last decades, we were writing towards a center that was sort of like the Europeans. So you sort
mm.
of like you read like We Need New Names, great novel by
Mhm.
the way, but you know it
Yeah.
is speaking to that center. In essence, it's trying to
Mhm,
say that
mhm,
okay, like you guys, even Achebe's Things Fall Apart that we love so much,
mm,
it was speaking to that center. Achebe was essentially saying that we are not barbarians, but right now you now have us coming back to say, okay, wait, this is our thing. When I was reading Luli's story, when Alain just gets back and said that, oh, okay, so this guy paid a sorcerer. He woke up the next morning, he had like a humpback and he could sing the best, and nobody gave a damn about whether he had
mm.
a humpback or everything. Because my first instinct was like, oh my God, what is a foreigner going to think about this? And I realized that, oh, okay, this is not for them, this is us. You
It's
understand?
not for
Because for
them.
me, I was like, that's a story that somebody would tell me as a child and I'll believe. In fact, if you tell me that story now, I'll be like,
Mhm,
yeah, it's true.
mhm.
Because, yeah, I know, like the scientist in me doesn't believe in witchcraft, but deep in my
Yo,
heart, I know
yo, literally the
that,
same thing. Like like Christianity, all that sometimes just that goes in and out. But like tell me about like someone sacrificed their children. I'm like cook. Like what happened? Like I'm listening. Like because there's no way
yeah,
I can just like remove that. Like there's no way. Like I still to an extent believe in like spirits and like not seeing a like black cat and like freaking out because like what did the cat do? Nothing. But
yeah, yeah,
like
there are some
owls,
forces.
owls. Get them
Yeah,
away from me. Get owls away from me. I don't want to see
yeah.
them. Like, mm,
He wrote that and he didn't just explain, he didn't give a justification. He didn't say, oh, this belongs to some sort of culture. And this, no, it was just like, yeah, this guy went to the medicine man and he got a voice. And you just move on. And I was like, God damn, man. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like Loli. Usually, when I read books for the first time, I read it technically. It's when I read the second time that I
mhm.
now start adding my emotions in it. So, but yeah, we're done with characters. Now let's get into the themes because these themes were so heavy.
I want to
Like
hear from you first. I want to hear from you first
from
because,
me.
like,
Oh,
mm,
so I'm just going to rattle off the themes because I've not thought them because I've not really thought of them. But first thing
okay.
I would see there was the way he treated power. and the way he spoke
Okay.
about like the power, the hierarchy of power, how it is treated regarding first riches, wealth, and then we now saw power with
Mm-hmm.
regards to colonialism. That's when you have like people in the white and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And you now saw that how like their version of
Mm-hmm.
how they ruled the city was like they were just left alone. They dictated the city and they were away from it. In fact, the only time I realized that there were actually foreigners in, Pointe-Noire was when they did not be. Is it? I don't think is it when they were doing his procession,
They
and
couldn't
then
go. The funeral session couldn't go through their
yeah,
neighborhood.
go through there. And then I realized that okay, actually, they're actually foreigners. This guy, and I was like, these goddamn guys are there again. So that's another thing. And then you could now, then you now, and I started to see the political nature of Point Noir when we now get into the girl's father, and then you now start seeing how like the young people there are used sort of like as commodities for the realization of this power, literally, like
Mm-hmm.
literally, because every story that was told, there was sort of like a young person dying or being
Person.
exploited
Yep.
for something. Well, what I was thinking, and this was still forming, is the link between power and death. Because for every story that was told, for somebody to gain something, they had to dabble in death. They had to be the cause of death. And it really just really brought into question how much a lot of like what I say human the power that exists, the ways that we ascend this current system of power, it has to do with dying. So essentially, the journey towards the upper rung of any system of power that exists in that sort of universe is simply dealing with death.
Mm.
Thus, this title of the book, "Dealing with the Dead." Because that's why when I had the French this in Le Commerce des Allongés, I was like, essentially, gaining this kind of social power for yourself is a business in death.
Mm.
So and that's where like the thought stopped for me, and I was like, God damn man, let's see. So yeah,
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
oh my god.
Uh I have a bunch of stuff, but I was like the first thing that struck me was how the dead mirror the living. Where like death is not the equalizer. Like people are still like the systems of oppression continue even in death. Because like
Yeah, yeah, cemetery of
the
the rich,
people,
cemetery of the poor.
yes,
Yeah.
like even the ghosts themselves, they retain the again the artist, like the je sais pas moi, the guy, the HR guy. It's because like why you're dead. This shouldn't matter, right? Like why do you still care about like your old title and like who you were when you were alive? It shouldn't matter, right? There should be a space for us to start over, but we can't because the dead mimic the living. Like
Mm.
we do the same things, and like if the living world doesn't change, the dead are also gonna stay the same. Like they like that is that was like the first thing. I was just like why do they care? Like what why is this important, right? And like that was just like yeah, that death is not a great equalizer. Like status still matters because like even at the end when the lady who's responsible for his death like wants to go to the cemetery with him because she doesn't want to be in the rich cemetery with her father. Why? They're dead. Like
Mm.
what could he do to her? You know, apparently he can still do things to her even though they were both dead. So like there's no
Mm.
justice when you die. It's just a continuation of like all the
Oh,
bullshit. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
that is crazy.
But yeah, definitely like the elite sacrificing the youth. Yeah, that was what we talked about that. And then you have the role of women. I was thinking about that. Like a lot of we have the grandmother who again, and then we have the grandmother, the dancers for the funerals, and then the sex workers like
Mm.
the market lady and then the like different ways of like how economics affect the way women like live in the place
Mm.
and like well they had Malembe sleeping with a man to get Liwa a job. I was so mad. I was just like really, really poor lady. I was so annoyed by that. I was just like, yeah, this is what poverty does to people, and it's annoying. The whole colonialism thing that was also very thing. They all like it's a cheap copy of France, right? Like the renaming the
Mm.
cemetery, the administration, stuff like that. It's like despite them being gone, we still perpetuate perpetuating the system that they left for us, and it's not working. Because like now
Mm,
our dads can't even like be ghosts in peace. They have to
mm.
continue dealing with same problems, same systems, same everything. Those are just like in a big picture the themes that I saw.
I don't know. So when you said something about you said about like how like it was a cheap copy of France, I was thinking I was like, so um is that would like is it okay if I make a connection that you know just the way, as you said, just building on what you said about like how like the dead mirrors the living, when like colonialism happens, and then the colonialists now leave and they sort of give these people back what's essentially sort of like a broken country. Could that be likened to killing a people,
Oh, for sure,
right?
for
Okay, I
sure.
can see that because
Um,
yeah,
because like,
because
what
like
is that? You get forgotten, right? Like being forgotten, like losing your identity, which
mm,
happened. Like you lose basically your names, your languages, your religion, some of your cultural there's just like a lot of people like I feel like colonialism is not really understood because it's just seen as like administration and maybe language, but
mm,
like there's so many other things that came with it that like we never have either know or think about, because there's a book I'm gonna start reading soon about like how the slave trade and colonialism affected like food, for example, the type
yeah,
of food we consume. Like
yeah,
the cassava that we love so much, like it was not necessarily for us, right? There's like all
mhm,
these things that like are tradition now, but like were they always like 100,
mm,
300 years ago? We don't know because we don't
mm,
have access to that knowledge. So like we have traditions now, and like that's traditions are allowed to change, but is it who we're meant to be? Like do we need to go back or do we just need to move forward? Like those are questions that like the colonizers
mm.
have to deal with, you know? And they're not easy answers. Like it's again, the past wasn't always like so great, but maybe there are things to learn from there and that could help us now. But for
Oh,
sure, I think colonization killed a lot in us. Like even just like our self esteem, like not to bad my people, but like a lot of the time we don't really believe in ourselves. The world doesn't believe in us, so we don't believe in us. Like we compare ourselves to like people who have had like a lot longer. We're like not even close to our circumstances,
mm,
but we refuse to like give ourselves grace. Like there's a lot of pessimism in us. And I wanna say the book is pessimistic, but the humor kinda stops me from doing that. Like it doesn't feel like a celebration, but it's just kind of like, guys, look at this, like we can do better type thing, right? Like
mm,
it's like let's see like some of the things that we do that can be bad and try to fix it instead of like this is bad, we are doomed. Like even though like the oppression and the classism and things feels overwhelming, there's still a sense of like no, we can do better. Like there's still some hope through some different characters, even like the main character again killing the guy at the end. It's like a way it's like we can still do things. um
oh,
but yeah, it's just I don't know,
ah,
it made me think a lot. I was just thinking, I was like damn, this is
oh.
hmm.
Okay, I think I can find a center for that. Okay, I think I can find a center now as regards colonialism and all of that. But yeah, but I think those are like will be my final notes. Now, what did the book change in you?
Honestly they're all silence as a colonial symbol. I never thought
Mm,
about it. The US expects silence. It's everywhere. I always wondered, like, who decided what volume to like have when you're like listening to music when you're just working, right? Like, who decided that? Like, who came up with these rules? Like, why is it like this? I never really had an answer until I read it and I was like, ooh. And then like my professor, I was in a class. Professor was like, Japan is very quiet. I'm just like more quiet than the US. He's like, yes. I'm like, that's interesting. I've always found like sometimes the US can be loud, but being more quiet in the US is actually insane. And I was like, why? You know? And like I'm definitely gonna think about that. Because for us, again, we're loud and it's associated with like being savages and all of that, even though it's like it
Mm,
has nothing to do with anything. Like we know when and where to shut up. Like it's not all the time. Like we know that like, oh, this time people are sleeping. It's not time to like when children are here, like we don't do this thing that like we have our own organization, but people looking from outside it's like, oh my god, like why are they so loud? Blah 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 blah. It's uncultured, it's on this. Like what do you mean? Right? So that's the thing that really struck with me. But again, I'm also just like I care a lot more now about the other Congo. Yeah, I have like more empathy. I can really see how connected we are, and like this, again, it's a petty beef, but like it's still a beef that we have, and I don't know why. It's like
mm.
they're our neighbors. We used to be one people, you know. Definitely have more empathy for them, and I'm thinking about the silence, like silent environment, and like what they mean.
I think for me,
What
like
about you?
it's well, just like I said, the business of death and how
Hmm.
like that's kind of like what is like used to create value. Essentially, I mean, there are other ways to create value, and
Hmm.
why it's dealing and why it's doing my head in is because at work, they are always gaslighting and emotionally blackmailing me. And so I'm just like seeing how like they are really killing like some sort of joy, killing some sort of like truth and value. Like you see something, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what I said, and they're like, oh no, it's not that. That I forget about that. Focus on this, and something in me just dies, and I'm like, this aspect of me that just came alive. I can't use it.
Hmm.
So I could see how like to sustain power and to push one up through like some sort of structure that isn't like essentially natural socially, you
Hmm.
have to deal in death at several levels. It's not just murders. Now there are also small
Hmm.
things that we kill slowly, slowly, and slowly, slowly. And you could see that in how like Malembe is sort of like even like if I just even looking at the average woman's life, you could see how you could see the levels that a person could die. I was also making a connection with colonialism, how like essentially coming to colonize the people, and when they were done and when they left and they handed them a country that was essentially dead on arrival. And I could see that in my country in Nigeria, because when they were done, they handed us a country that we didn't ask for, and now there's like 500 and something of us wondering what the hell we are doing here. We didn't ask for this. Well, somebody just came down. My people were just farmers in the hills.
Hmm.
And next thing they told us that we are Nigerians, and we are like, but we still have to grow these yams. And
What is a
now,
Nigerian?
and yeah, and now they are telling us that, oh my God, we don't have any ministers in the country. And all of us are like, we are growing yams. We are yam growers. We did not even want to go to school, and people are like, "Oh my God, Africa should rise up." And I'm like, the tools that were given to us to rise up were sort of dead. To even work with those tools, as you rightly pointed out, we are mirroring the living instead of like trying to find out what it means for us. Compared to colonialism, post-colonialism is death
Hmm.
because you are stuck in that endless loop where almost nothing can grow. So yeah, those are the things that I thought of, and I'm going to chew on them and see how I can, shaping these thoughts and probably share them someday. So yeah. Hmm. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing. Oh my God, this thing
Yeah,
put me in a
thank you for
mood.
having me.
All right, so but one last thing. So you mentioned that you were reading that you were going to pick up the next book to read. So tell us about that book. Oh, she's going to
It's
show
not
us.
necessarily like let me
Alhamdulillah.
find the name.
Mashallah.
It's like something to do with again. It's nonfiction, so I'm gonna be reading that slowly about like the fauna and flora, like how it was affected by the slave trade. Slave trade, voila, slave
Yeah.
trade, voila. But I just wanted to add like a few recommendations that I had
Mm-hmm.
for like to go along with this book. There is Black Skin, White Mask by France Fanon. There's an English and French version. It's originally in French. If you want to read that, it's fine. Une saison au Congo by Aimé Césaire. I go. Absolutely recommend that one. And then a movie on becoming a guinea fowl. I want more people to watch that one. It's literally a movie taking place during a funeral. They're burying a very bad man, and the community has to deal with that. Like, what does it mean for us to
Mm.
grieve someone who was so horrible to our daughters, and like it's like objectively a bad person. So like that's a movie. It's an African movie. I want people to watch it. The filmmaker support, support, support. But also it's just like I wouldn't say fun, but more contemporary literature. I know it's not your thing, but
No,
it's
no, no,
called
no. I'm changing.
it's
I'm
called
changing.
it's called Compléter les Blancs by Keishio Iano. It's a Japanese novel that's only available in French. Basically about this guy who wakes up wakes up, just goes home, and then like I go to the doctor. It's like, I'm going to get my analyzer, blah blah blah. The doctor looks at him. He's like, bro, I did an autopsy on you a year ago. Like, why are you here?
Hmm.
Because like, what? But I'm clearly alive. What do you mean? It's like, bro, you died. Like, I did not. I remember you. Like, there's no way I'm alive. Da, da, da. We find out that he did come back to life,
Hmm.
and a bunch of people came back to life, and like how would affect society, starting from their families to the job market, things like that. It's basically also like dealing with death in like another way. So those are just kind of companion book I thought about when I was reading this.
Oh, thank you so much. I shall. Yeah, I hardly read for enjoyment these days, but I'm going to add that so when I can read for enjoyment. My next read, actually, the one I'm looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
is Firstborn of the Sun by Marvelous Michael
Oh,
Anson.
okay.
We're having a conversation ending next month. And then, of course, I am quarter ways through Umberto Echo's In the Name of the Rose. So,
Already. Ah,
nah,
bro.
it's addictive.
It's
Like,
very good, but I was just like, this is a lot, because like, what do you mean we're in the 14th century and I'm supposed to know all these people? I was
it's
so stressed. I was like,
yeah, it was no, it was stressing me because first I was like, because first I didn't want to read anything European because I was tired, but like it's
what?
compelling. Once I got through, when I started meeting the characters, when I met the main character, and then he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about his monk teacher, I realized that
Mm-hmm.
okay, we are getting like it's a murder mystery, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
murder mystery with very with a level prose. You could have summoned me with this book if you had just told me that from the beginning. You'll have summoned me with this book. That's exactly what I came for. Literary level prose. I'm trying to be a better writer, so that's why I'm forcing myself to read all of these things. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
on the book front. Thank you so much for sharing your book journey with me. I
Yeah.
shall as soon as I find a way to stay unemployed and yet still have enough money to eat food and buy clothes,
Mm.
I shall read everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been fun. Okay, so thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll see you at the next time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
goodbye.